wait till 5:30 exactly, because that's when the live stream starts. According to Adelita over here, who's been our marketing guru. So I'm going to listen to her and do what she tells me to do. She gave me a thumbs up, so that must be good. Looks like I got about 5 seconds. Welcome, everyone, to the Energy Capital Startup Challenge. We're excited to see you all here. This is a great event that we've been working on for quite a while. I'm Phil Christofferson. I'm the CEO of Energy Capital Economic Development. And it is important for us to diversify our economy, and one of the best ways to do it is find local entrepreneurs who want to build a business here. So that's why we're doing this. It's my pleasure to introduce Scott Rendell with Impact 307. Energy Capital Economic Development and Impact 307 have partnered on this and worked on it for quite a while. So Scott is going to take it from here. He's going to be your MC for the program. We're going to turn it over to Scott. So Scott, thank you very much.
All right, Phil, thank you very much. And yes, it is truly a partnership between Impact 307, our University of Wyoming program, and Energy Capital Economic Development. We've worked very closely to pull this off. It's taken a couple of years to put all the pieces in place, but what I think the result of all that is going to be very apparent tonight as we kind of go through the pitches of the finalists that we have. So I am Scott Rendell. I'm the director of Impact 307. I'm actually based in Sheridan, but I have responsibility for the entire northern tier of Wyoming, and that's from Park County all the way to the South Dakota border. So we have, in my home base of Sheridan, we've had several startup challenges, found it to be a great way to get a lot of entrepreneurial activity going. But we had a Park County Startup Challenge last spring, and now with the Energy Capital Challenge tonight, we have now kind of run the gamut with northern Wyoming. So along with me, a key partner in this has been John Wetzel. John is here. John's here. So give John a hand there. So I acknowledge John because John makes the 4.5-hour trip over here several times in the last 3 months or so to kind of help us with our publicity events. We've had networking events. We had a boot camp that was amazing in October. The application period closed in early November. He's been over here counseling with the finalists, and so he's been a key member of our team. And then I do want to acknowledge Phil, Mike Schober, Marcy from the Energy Capital office. They have done a great job in supporting us this whole way, have made themselves very available. Their office space has been very helpful to us, and we appreciate the partnership and hope it continues for years to come, Phil. So thank you. And then I also want to acknowledge we have Derek Jarrett. He is our senior director of Impact 307. He's also a Gillette native, and he would not miss this event. So he was going to make the drive just this afternoon to come all the way up from Laramie, but great to have Derek here. And then we have Brett Keeler as well. Brett is an assistant director, also based in Laramie. So they are continuing to perform ushering duties out there. Thank you very much. So, and last but not least, we are so fortunate. So Dana Miller, who is on the Energy Capital Economic Development Board, has been the glue that has held this all together. We brought her on in August, and she has run so many of the on-the-spot, on-the-ground logistics for us. She has helped to do counseling. She has done every logistical complexity of this thing possible. We really couldn't have done it without her, and so I want to have a big, big hand for Dana Miller. So thank you very much. Okay, and so before we get too far, I also want to acknowledge local media. That's one of the things that had worked very well for me in Sheridan, and I said to Phil, you know, we really need to get the radio folks involved. We need to get our local newspaper involved, and then we have public access here tonight. So basically, we're so pleased to have the support because we had an unknown event. We had to promote the application period. we had to get the word out that this was happening. We had to raise funding, and Basin Radio, Vic Wright has been amazing. We were on his program several times. We've had the finalists on his program. They have already gotten some really good publicity out of this. And so the radio has been wonderful. And then Jonathan Gallardo at the Gillette News Record has written feature articles on all 5 of the finalists. And I think you're going to hear from them tonight that they have actually had calls already talking about, hey, I'm hearing about this in the paper. I'm really intrigued. Where can I learn more? Can I be a beta tester? This has made all the difference. I mean, this is how you create an economic, entrepreneurial ecosystem in your area, is having this kind of coverage and this kind of exposure. So I want to recognize them. And then obviously we have Jeremy and Sarah from Public Access here. They are recording this via live stream. And so everyone that's on the live stream, welcome. It's great to have you here. And hopefully the community will have a tremendous benefit from all of this. Okay, we have a number of sponsors and supporters. And the folks that have been involved with this, it's run all the way from funding for the seed funds. Many of them are contributors to that. The space that we get at the incubator, Area 59, Gillette College here, have been integral supporters of the program. We have business advising that's happened on multiple fronts. And then, we count on the judges to spend a lot of time in evaluating applicants. They were all involved in the semifinal round, which was several hours. They're here tonight and will continue to serve as mentors for the folks that will, be part of this process from here on out. So I want to acknowledge all the people on the screen. So the university, obviously, our program is supported by the university. Energy Capital Economic Development, we've got the Fuel Business Incubator as part of Energy Capital, Gillette College. The US EDA actually funds a large part of this from a UW perspective. The Wyoming Business Council, the Small Business Development Center, PJ Burns has been wonderful in terms of counseling and advising. Campbell County was a big contributor, and we really appreciate the seed fund support there. The Chamber of Commerce, Komatsu, Pinnacle Bank, Big Lost Meadery. We've got judge representation from several of these folks, and then Western Welding Academy. So if we give all these folks a hand as well. And then I have to mention, so our presentation support, I think you're going to see some pretty amazing professional presentations. And Adelita Duryea is a member of Fuel and is a startup business, but has actually, in a relatively short time, developed a pretty amazing and compelling marketing agency here in Gillette. And so Sprout and Scale Marketing. Adelita worked with all these finalists, spent quite a bit of time making sure she understood what they were trying to convey, and then showing in a very professional manner. So thank you, Adelita. Your assistance has been amazing, and we hope that you will continue to work with these folks as they continue to develop their businesses. So thank you. Okay, we'll introduce our pitch night judges. So we have Bo Barkley is not here. He had a last-minute commit, so we will have to scratch him from the list, but we still have 4 outstanding judges. So Tony Bell, Sam Kleichman, Kevin Couch, Lance Walker. Those are our 4 judges tonight, and they will have the difficult decision of kind of hearing these presentations, hopefully asking the good questions, and then being able to make some tough decisions in the deliberation that'll be announced. The winners will be announced at the conclusion of that, so a little bit later this evening. So thank you, judges, for your support on this. Okay, so the pitch night format. Each finalist will have approximately 15 minutes to present their slides, their ideas, and their plans. That'll be followed by a judge Q&A time. We allow about 10 minutes or so, give or take, for the judges to ask questions. There will be the 5 presentations, and then at the conclusion, there will be a deliberation period where the live attendees will be dismissed to enjoy the reception that we've prepared, you'll get to meet all of the winners yourselves and ask them questions and get on their backlog list for their future products and orders. So you can definitely do that tonight. The judges will deliberate for a few minutes, and then we'll actually reconvene folks here in the presentation hall and announce the winners on public access. So that'll be at the conclusion of the program. So that's what we have going on. And to introduce tonight's finalists, so you're going to hear from each of these. This will be the presentation order. We have Connor with Baldacci Guitars. We have Ray with Rather Be Fishing. Inflatrix, Mark Thorson. The wind turbine blade recycling, we've got Cameron and Jess Anderson, and they have a person from WRI down in Laramie who will also be presenting there. That's Seth. And then also Ag Innovations with Shonda and Randall Otwell. So we'll give each of them a big hand as they come up and finish. And so I appreciate everything that they've done to kind of get ready for all of this. Okay, we have one additional benefit. So All Dimensions Fitness Center has contributed funding for an Audience Choice Award. And so you will see in your program, and then online periodically, we will fire up the text line where you can text to a number to, and I'll explain that in a minute, to actually vote for your favorite business plan. So everyone that attends here tonight and everyone on the live stream can be part of our evaluation process. So please take advantage of that. We have a text number that you can text to. I'll have that up here in a second. So everyone can vote. We will actually, we want people to attend and hear the presentations. We'll just turn the text app on in a few minutes. And then the winner will be announced. We'll let the voting probably end about 10 minutes after the presentations conclude. And then the winner will be announced live at the reception in addition to the actual challenge winners. The Audience Choice Award winner will be announced then as well. And so here is the information you need. So those folks that are online, you can 551-319-5799, and then as you hear the presentations in the order, you can text 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to that number, and your vote will be recorded. Only one vote per number, though. And then at the conclusion, the live audience will be dismissed and will enjoy tasty eats and scrumptious drinks in our reception area. That is courtesy of Fresh Ideas Food. That is the food vendor for Gillette College, as well as Grinners is providing bar adult beverages and other drinks as well. So please thank them and take advantage of that right after the program. So without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and start with Connor Baldacci. And so we will give him a hand as he comes up, and then you'll switch to the presentation. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Connor Baldacci, and I run Baldacci Guitars here in Gillette. We are Wyoming's only, and therefore Wyoming's largest guitar manufacturer. And I've spent the last 7 years developing a guitar that looks good, feels good, and plays great to help artists look good, feel good, and most importantly, play great. So a little bit of background. This is the guitar that started my guitar obsession. The first time my grandpa pulled this guitar out of the storeroom and played Folsom Prison Blues for all of us, I was hooked. I don't know if it was the way the guitar sounded, the way it looked, or that my favorite person in the world was playing it, but that's kind of where my guitar obsession started. Now, as a student at Campbell County High School, I would talk my way out of any class I possibly could in order to go spend time in the wood shop. I loved building things with my hands. So when it came time for graduation, I decided to combine those two things and attended the Roberto Venn School of Luthery. Now, Luthery is just a fancy word for stringed instrument making and repair, and Roberto Venn is the only accredited guitar building school in the country. After Roberto Venn, it was game on. I decided to jump right in and start developing guitars on my own. So Baldacci Guitars started out with the question, what causes a guitar player to buy a new guitar? We all have several of them, but none of us can really seem to explain why. And what we found was that the reason people play guitars, they're trying to get the sound that's in their head out to the audience and out to the world. And for the longest time, you needed kind of multiple guitars to do so because different guitars are going to sound different. right? So those old Led Zeppelin records, Guns N' Roses stuff, that deep growl you hear in the guitar comes from thicker guitar bodies and from shorter guitar necks. Whereas, country music, that twangy sound comes from thinner guitar bodies, longer guitar necks, and different hardware. So if you're an artist that spans multiple genres in your show, you're constantly having to switch out guitars to get those different sounds. But what if you didn't have to? What if you had a guitar that responded to how you played it rather than dictated the sound that came out? And that's kind of where Baldacci Guitars was born. I would love to sit here and go through every single component and how we do things at the shop to make the most resonant guitars possible, but we would kind of be here all night. So currently we have 4 guitar models, or 4 variations on one guitar model. This is our Bighorn series electric guitars, named after the Bighorn Mountains. The flagship model was the Bighorn solid body, which is a solid piece of wood, and it's kind of the workhorse guitar. It's the guitar most people go to. It is our best seller by far. Next, we have the Bighorn semi-hollow body, which has an acoustic sound chamber within it that allows you to get a little bit more airiness and resonance out of your sound. Third, we have the Bighorn hollow body, which is really the king of versatility. You can get acoustic guitar sounds, you can get electric guitar sounds, you get everything in between in that Bighorn hollow body. Our newest model is actually the Bighorn Eco, and it's constructed in a little bit different way to give guitar players that are used to having a really snappy response in their guitar. It allows them to get that while still in the Bighorn guitar family. So the first question I was asked when I started telling people I wanted to build guitars was, is there any money in that? And the short answer is absolutely. So just the electric guitar market alone is about a $4.6 billion industry worldwide. By 2030, that's expected to grow to around $7.5 billion. And there are more guitar players now than ever before. And because concerts have become somewhat of a cultural phenomenon now, more and more people are gravitating towards learning and playing. So we've segmented the guitar market down into 4 different kinds of players. First up, you have the beginner guitar player. 45% of all guitars sold across the world go to first-time guitar players. And within 90 days, only about 10% of them are still playing. So beginner guitar players are looking for affordable and easy ways to play guitar. The next level, you have the tinkerers, right? They're kind of learning more about the guitar, what the guitar can do, what kind of sounds they can make with it, and still kind of learning the process behind their guitars. Next level, we have the professional, and that's not just the professional that's touring and playing 300 shows a year. It's the people that are really into guitar culture, and even if they're just playing at home several times a night, we still kind of count them as that next level professional guitar player, even though they're maybe not be doing it as a full profession. The 4th level, you have the collectors, and they collect guitars for various reasons, whether it be historic value. They saw Eric Clapton play a similar one once, things like that. So Baldacci Guitars targets the professional guitar players. These are the people that are needing an absolute workhorse instrument, something that they can throw in a van, drive across the country, pull it out, and play the next show, and get through 300 or more shows a year some of our artists are doing. And so our Bighorn series guitars really gives them the opportunity to express themselves with them. Now, by targeting the professionals, we're also able to dip into that tinkerer market a little bit because these tinkerer guitar players are the ones looking up to the professionals. That's kind of where the next professionals come from. And after you've developed a reputation with the professional guitar players, that's kind of when you get into the collector market. The collectors want guitars that they've seen their guitar heroes play or they saw in a concert once, and so developing a good reputation with the professionals kind of gets you into that collector market. So last year, we produced 41 guitars a year in the shop, and that was me working full-time running at full capacity. So in order to hit our projection of 60 guitars, or 65 guitars for 2024, that's when we'd have to start bringing in outside help and hiring. After talking with a couple guitar manufacturers that have gone through this process, it takes about 3 months to get somebody up to shop standard and about 6 months from day one to get them up to shop speed. So there is quite the training process involved, but being that it is a skilled labor position, these jobs would start at roughly $15 to $20 an hour based on the person's experience. So then by 2025, we're projecting around 125 guitars, and we'll get into how these numbers are going to come about here shortly. That would require an additional 2 to 3 people. And then by 2026, we want to hit 300 guitars that year. And in order to do 300 guitars, you are going to need 6 to 7 people working full-time to accomplish that. So our current revenue model, about 50% of our sales are to retail customers, people that find us online and order. Only about 15% of these are the standard model. Most people want to customize it in some way or another. 35% of our current sales are what we call artist guitars. And this is kind of a marketing thing because artists will get discounts based on the level that they're at and how playing our guitars can benefit Baldacci guitars later on. And then about 15% of our current sales are to music stores. And so by 2026, we want to flip this revenue model completely. We want the majority of the guitars produced to be our standard model and be in retail stores all across the United States. Obviously, keep the artist program because, again, that is the best marketing you can have is a big artist putting their name behind it. But still keeping the retail side of things on a smaller scale to allow that custom shop guitar to be built where people can customize it in any way they might. I'm not going to really go deep into the numbers here, but by flipping that, or our model, what that will allow us to do is make more accurate and better projections for the number of guitars produced per quarter, per 6 months, per year. And it will allow us to start buying components in bulk, which will start to give us better rates on them. Ideally, we want to see these profit margins increase on the wholesale side of things to around 25 to 30%. And by ordering pieces in bulk, we can accomplish that across all of the different models. So 2024 is the year of content. We are going to start out by building a stock or a whole inventory of stock guitars to be available for sale and to most importantly use for marketing. We are going to use these really to create extreme amounts of content and try and reach every guitar player in the world so they are aware of Baldacci guitars. By 2025, the big goal for that year is to attend the NAMM show. Now, NAMM is the National Association for Musical Manufacturers. It's basically a big trade show where the major guitar retailers all get together, try out new products, and decide what they want in their stores going forward. So if we are going to try and get into guitar stores, getting to the 2025 NAMM show is an absolute must. By 2027, we are going to be expanding product lines to kind of meet the guitar market and the kind of the ever-changing needs of that. We want to expand into the Asian and European markets, which make up about 55% of the guitar market worldwide. And by 2040, the long-term goal, we want to be producing 5,000 or more guitars per year while still maintaining, I mean, quality is number one, so while still maintaining the Baldacci quality that our clients have come to know and love. And in order to hit that number, we would be talking 150 or more employees in a much larger facility than we're in right now. So basically, the big question we're trying to answer here is, how do you get there when manufacturing is difficult and expensive? So the seed money from tonight would be going towards creating this inventory of guitars and then using it for content marketing. Not only organic marketing, but there's a whole world of guitar social media influencers whom we've worked with in the past. And there's guitar publications. Guitar people still love receiving their physical magazines in the mail, and we'll read them cover to cover. I know that because I'm one of them. And so one of the things that building this inventory will do, it will allow us to create content of the standard guitar and eliminate the wait times. The wait times of 6 months or more to have your guitar built turns a lot of people off. And so having guitars in stock and ready to go will really help. Also, building this inventory will help us take a broader look at our manufacturing operation and see where we can implement or where we can become more efficient, where we can implement lean manufacturing principles to really increase the whole setup. So we've touched on the impact a little bit, and all of that being said, why Gillette and what kind of impact can it have? We've touched on the jobs and the supply chain support, but also Wyoming is very unique in that we are so manufacturing focused. There's so much out there for Wyoming manufacturers. So Gillette is the place to do this. The other thing is, I grew up here in Gillette, and Gillette really gave me the foundations to create Baldacci guitars, right? Without, the Campbell County High School wood shop or some of the mentors I had, none of this would exist. So personally, on that level, I want to be able to give back to the community and hopefully inspire people to pursue their passions and at the end of the day, build cool stuff. So the reason we're all here, why choose us? The product is developed. It is ready to go. No matter what, tomorrow I'm going to be in the shop making these guitars. Our manufacturing processes are established. That's not to say that there won't be improvements that can be made, but we already have the ability to make, just me alone in the shop, 40-ish guitars per year. We're primed to grow based on the orders we have coming in right now. And looking towards the future, Baldacci Guitars is ready to expand. And at the end of the day, we build a simply better guitar. And that's what it's all about, is building the absolute best guitar possible to allow guitar players to create their sound. And the really nice thing now is you guys don't have to take my word for it.
Hey, this is Travis Bettis, lead guitarist with Lee Bryce.
What's up? I'm Brianna Salas, and I am an actress musician.
Hey, I'm Jacob Garner. I play guitar for Riley Green.
Hi, my name is Jack Steiner.
Hi, I'm Taylor Neal.
This is Dane Kinzer from the Kane Brown Band.
Hi, my name is Will Larson.
I love using Baldacci guitars.
I love this guitar. I love the way it plays.
I love the
No matter where you're from or where you're at, you're going to get a world-class instrument.
They feel amazing. They look great.
allows me difficult parts of your ride ease. I love working with Baldacci right here in America, and above all else.
What else could you want in a guitar? It's perfect.
What's up, guys? It's Ian Munsick. This is my Baldacci Bighorn semi-hollow body. I love this thing. Not only is it made in Wyoming by a Wyoming native, but it also plays really, really well. Shout out Wyoming. Shout out Baldacci.
Can you talk about some of the competitors you have in the market? I know very little of guitars, but you hear the Gibsons and the Fenders, and that's a pretty impressive portfolio of artists there. How did you get into those guys? And then I guess how do you stack up against competitors?
So it's kind of difficult to get guitars to those artists because they are able to go to any manufacturer they want and get free guitars. So the fact that they're playing and trusting my guitars I love it. I mean, that's kind of exactly what we're going for. But yeah, you're right. The guitar market is very large and somewhat saturated with a lot of manufacturers. What we always tell people, and one of the reasons we really want to get into guitar stores, is because once people feel the difference between our guitars and some of the other guitars on the market, see what these are able to do, that's, in our experience, really been the deciding factor for a lot of these customers as to which guitar they pick.
One of the hardest things recruiting all of how do you adding 100 jobs are but just start what's the best growing quality.
And I think one of the best things about being in Gillette is that even the students coming out of Campbell County have spent more time in a shop working with their hands than most people have in their entire lives. And so I do think, here in Gillette, we do have the skilled workforce to be able to create guitars like this. Things I personally would be looking for in an employee is somebody that's good with their hands. They don't have to really be a guitar aficionado. Guitar knowledge helps, but it's more of a manufacturing process rather than one individual guitar at a time. And something we would be looking into is providing training, possibly sending employees to Roberto Vinn, the Lutherie School, in order to get them trained on how guitars are built, what kind of the different construction techniques, and things like that. But I think that's kind of one of the benefits of being in such an industrial area is the workforce is kind of primed and ready to build. Obviously, it's going to take training, things of that sort, but having built guitars down in Arizona for the last 4 years, seeing the difference in really just the people and the mentality and the attitude here versus just outside of Phoenix. I mean, Gillette is the place to build something.
All right, so this question, don't take into account operating capital. What would be your greatest weakness over business?
I think it would be almost a personal weakness of trusting other people to build these guitars. I kind of, see it as my baby. It started from a center line on a piece of paper into the guitar you see today. And the reason I named the company Baldacci Guitars is because at the end of the day, it's my name on the headstock. And so it's, taking ownership of the guitar. And so I think kind of one of the biggest challenges for me would be training somebody and getting them up to speed and building things in such a way that it meets kind of the standards. And I think, training would kind of be the biggest hurdle that we're going to have to overcome. How do you train an employee to meet these?
My question is more immediate on funding that you say you want and the number of cars. So that dollars. How many?
Yeah, we can go back. Click the button. Goes to the revenue projector, not the projections, but the cost breakdowns. You can see here we have the materials cost broken out for all of these guitars. So with $5,000, and there'd be some mixing and matching of the guitar models, but we could build roughly 5 guitars and get them out content-wise. If all the content's organic and none of it's paid, with $5,000, we could put together a stock of 5 guitars. Yep, and then those guitars kind of roll into the next ones and into the next ones. Do I have? Yeah, so, say for example, a Bighorn solid body cost, we'll just round it up to $1,200. MSRP on it is $32. So after basically building one and covering our shop costs, that allows us to build that one again plus.
So do you have plans of where these guitars? Only 5 and them all to Wyoming retail store, California, where region?
So we would use these first 5 guitars mostly for content. The nice thing, it's kind of a two-edged sword with the influencer marketing. Those videos cost anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000 depending on who does them. So we would try and get as much organic content as we possibly can out of them. And, that would even be talking to local guitar players. They'd be interested in doing a demo video with it. So those 5 guitars we would try to keep in-house as much as possible to create that content and really get it out to the guitar world.
So you discussed going into the Asian market and the European market. Do you have a plan to get there?
Aside from finding dealers in those regions, not particularly. The issue we run into is a lot of these woods are on endangered species list. So one of the things we'll have to figure out is how do you export a guitar that uses a rosewood rep, right? What kind of paperwork do you need to have in order to do those kinds of things? There are guitar distribution companies in a lot of these countries. So there are like 2 or 3 distribution warehouses in Japan. Most of those guitar companies, or most of the guitar shops, just for example in Japan, get their products from. The people that run those warehouses are usually at the NAMM show, at the Dallas International Guitar Festival, places like that, always look for more products. So it's getting in front of the right people to get them over there and then figuring out what kind of things we have to have in order to export.
He's got a guest that he'll introduce. Ray?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for showing up. We'll go ahead and get rolling here.
People get up every day to do the same thing. Helps up with a change in life with that.
So, good evening. My name is Ray Bergman. I'm founder of Rather Be Fishing Tackle and the new Scent Line system. Tonight with me is Brandon MacArthur, owner of Rocky Mountain Discount Sports of Wyoming. So we say fishing experience you crave, because who wants to go fishing and not catch a fish? We all want to catch fish, more fish and bigger fish. So I created a device that lets you do just that. I want to catch more fish and bigger fish, and more importantly, who else wants to do that? Let's find out. Survey says every fisher in America. You just want to catch bigger fish and more fish. It's just how it works. And not only that, you want to outfish your buddy. That's super important. So the solution is the new ScentLine system. As you guys can see up here on the screen, it is a downrigger weight, but it's way more than that, and we're going to get into that. So it's the most advanced downrigger weight that's ever been created. The scent tube that's on the back of it, the shape of it, it's not in the shape of a traditional downrigger at all. The tube that's on the back of it is clear. You can see in it. That's a sponge you can put your liquid scent in. You can remove that sponge and put bait in there, or you can keep the sponges in there and run multiple things. You can do so many different things with it. The eye that's on the bottom of it, that's for attaching a drag weight. Downrigger fishermen, a lot of times will go down, hit the bottom, pick back up. That actually creates a lot of bites when you're downrigger fishing. You can put a drag weight on that, so your drag weight is what gets snagged up on the bottom instead of your expensive downrigger ball. It's never been done in the market. You can also daisy chain the units together, so you can have multiple units. What that does, more scent or bait in the water creates more fish coming in to eat your tackle. It's pretty much that simple. So, but it's not just a downrigger weight. It is probably the coolest downrigger weight ever, but the tube that you see on the bottom of the screen, it can be used in shallow water fishing applications. Anything from bank fishing to boat fishing off the side of your boat. So you can see here the tube system. This is kind of it in action. This is off the side of my boat, out fishing at Keyhole. You can see all them little particles coming out of it right there. And what that's doing is that is creating a scent and bait line at the same time. Simply hung off the side of my boat. I'm fishing about 15 feet of water at about 1/2 of a mile an hour. You work a structure, and it just brings the fish in, and they start feeding. So basically, you create a feeding frenzy is what you do. So it's actually a pretty amazing system. It's never been done before, and it is patent pending, which is a huge thing when you see some numbers coming up here. So it's not just a downrigger system. Let's get that smashed right now. Let's talk about the market. The best person to talk about the recreational outdoor fishing market is Brandon MacArthur. He owns Rocky Mountain Discount Sports in Wyoming. He deals with this and sees this every day. He was kind enough to come down and talk about our system.
Thanks, Ray. So the fishing tackle market's about a $7.4 billion a year annual industry, about $1,037 spent per fisherman. So we tried this product specifically in our Wyoming location. So I got four stores in the state. Pretty small market, only $23 million annually spent. If you take into account the average fisherman, or the average percent of the population is 17% that fishes, that makes Wyoming's population expenditure on fishing $233.75. I kind of feel these numbers are a little bit on the low side on the numbers that we do in our stores. But we tried it there, and you look at Northland and you look at Rapala, they started in very small regional markets too. So trying it in that market, so Ray was able to generate $8,065 in sales. He did that in my 4 stores and online through social media. Not exactly sure when Ray first did the first direct-to-consumer sales, but I think that was May-ish.
Yeah, the end of May when we started that.
So, and we put them in our stores in June. So pretty impressive numbers. During that time period, he had sales in our stores of $5,470, $2,595 in direct-to-consumer sales. I really think a nationwide distribution model is viable for this company. He is going to have to do both brick and mortar sales and direct-to-consumer sales to make it fly. We are also going to see later on, Ray has generated some projections. I really think those are pretty accurate. They're conservatively on the low side, I would say. It's kind of depending on if a major retailer picks them up or if a national personality buys into the product, which I think will probably happen. So profit structure of the item. So the items are pretty profitable, not very expensive to produce. On the retail side of things, we make a 35% margin for $63.14 in profit dollars. That's from wholesale to retail. On Ray's side of thing, he makes up to a 60% margin and $118.16 per unit. That's a complete 10-pound downrigger weight system. Our highest profit margin item in the store is actually these little bags of pellet. So make all the way up to 79% gross margin on those. And I'm going to turn it back to Ray.
Okay. So, as Brandon was saying, we got some testimonials come up here, but I'm going to ramble on about some other stuff. So our fish food, or our bait, this is actually fish food. This is designed specifically to grow big fish at fish hatcheries around the world. So this is actually a pretty amazing thing. I'm the first person to ever do that as well. And the bait maker system, we have a bait maker system as well that allows the user to create their own bait. And you guys can check this out. These are little pellets you can make yourself, and you can kind of create your own bait. So Travis Grubber, he's kind of a local stud here when it comes to fish. And not only that, but he's pretty well known around the college, I hear. You're going to notice on his testimonial, he said he can't wait to test at ice fishing. This tube is going to change the ice fishing world, literally. So Travis Grubber, thank you. I appreciate that testimonial. Jerry and Javan Hutchinson, some more locals here. These were actually the first people to buy our system. They can't wait to try it ice fishing. They've slayed fish at Fort Peck while their buddies were fishing right next to them, using them everything except for our scent line system. They hammered the fish. Their buddies all the way around them and across the whole lake weren't touching anything. So kind of goes to say something there. So the plan. This is the projection we were talking about. I went way on the conservative side here. And you're thinking, well, you only did $8,000 in sales. How are you expecting to go to $200,000? It's all about demographics as far as the selling and somebody picking you up, somebody big, whether it be retail store or a well-known fisherman. So the way I base this model is based off of how I build the product right now. This is completely realistic as soon as we target demographics and put the fishing devices where they're going to sell the most. Downriggers don't sell real great in Wyoming because it's not a huge state known for downriggers like if you go out to the Great Lakes. Fort Peck, Flaming Gorge, people know about downriggers down there, so it's pretty amazing. So with these business projections, the type of jobs that this business is going to create: engineering jobs, machinery operator jobs, sales and marketing and public relation people, financial officer, warehouse and production handling. You can see this gets pretty big, and like I said, this is on the modest side. Somebody picks this up, the sales could easily go to 800 to 1,000 to 1 million plus in a month, literally, and that would be like Cabela's picking it up, something like that. It's going to happen. So, timeline. 2023, I've done some pretty amazing things for a startup company. I designed something, put a provisional patent on it, got a website up and going, and thank you, Carrie, for helping me with that. Got it in retail stores, and we test drove the market. That was the whole purpose of where we're at right now. We know the product's going to sell. We know people want it. We know it works. And we know it gives people bragging rights because they're catching more fish than their buddies. So it's obviously going to roll on itself there. 2025, 2026, it's all about manufacturing this. So the product itself, I do believe, is gonna blow up and be extremely well. I am going to say I believe with the guidance of the Energy Capital Economics Development Team and Impact 307, you guys can actually help me drive this, because this is an area that I don't know anything about. I basically created a little monster here, and we need to kind of tame it down, pull the reins back, and figure out the best direction. I believe in safe growth. That's why I projected that graph the way I did. It'd be real easy to jump into some huge cells, let somebody else take this, manufacture it overseas. It's not going to happen. This is going to be made in America, and that's super important to me. I think this is going to be great economic growth and diversification for Campbell County, Wyoming, with Ratherby Fishing Tackle and your guys' help. So the impacts, as you can see, I've already made a pretty small impact on the local and national economy. Every dollar spent locally helps in ways you can't even imagine. And keeping that money, not only locally, but everything in the United States, as far as everything that I've done so far. And that's actually been a goal and kind of a challenge to do. But it helps so much if people could just understand that. So fund utilization is going to be just this. The patent work's got to go from provisional patent to a utility patent and a design patent, okay? That's important to understand. That costs a lot of money. Improved marketing, demographics, and then mass production and equipment to do so. I can cut production costs by 65% with an injection mold, and I have almost no waste. It's a good thing to do for the future. So, with that being said, follow us online. Watch this thing blow up. I hope you guys come in and help us out. I got some special thanks real quick. I know I'm out of time. Brandon and his wife, Kelly, you guys have helped me so much. I can't even say thank you enough. Gillette Area 59, Makerspace, I designed most of this right here in town. And I build almost all of it right here in town. I probably couldn't have done it. Well, I could have, but it would have taken me way longer without Area 59. Johnson Outdoors, thank you for your support. Look forward to working with you in the future. And Jason Mitchell Outdoors for some upcoming events.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Can you give us a little guidance from knowing very little about fishing? Is there any regulatory or were there potential any legal laws that say, oh, you can't use this product? What does that look like for this in the future? And how unknown is it if that ever could be a problem?
It's actually pretty open, okay? So you're going to hear in the past people say you can't chum, right? If you look up the definition of chumming, it usually has to do with whole kernel corn. Somebody throws a handful of whole kernel corn in the water, those little fish that come in, that eat those little particles that you've seen coming out of my system. When they eat a whole kernel corn, they can't digest it and pass it fast enough. It usually ends up killing little fish. It doesn't always happen. They circle around and cause whirling disease, but no, it's not going to be an issue. There are certain states that have specific guidelines for specific waters, and that's all about the angler's choice, what he's going to do there. You don't have to use center bait in the system, but you can. But it is pretty much legal in every state. There's really one state that's in question, and I'm working with them right now. So, but pretty much everything else is wide open.
When you went through your presentation for the semifinals, talked about possibly selling this.
Yep.
Is that still a possibility, or are you dedicated to bringing this to Campbell County and keeping it, even if it's slowing your?
Nope, that's exactly why I did the graph the way I did. Okay, it's super important to me that this stays made in America. I have had people approach me already about wanting it, and they've told me how much money we can make and how they're going to make it overseas. I won't even do it. Absolutely not. If this can't create jobs in the United States, I believe in taking care of our backyard first, and that's super important. We need to take care of America, and by doing that, people like me making things here. So absolutely not. Nope.
So one of your marketing goals is to get into a Cabela's, get a large-scale influencer, major fishing personality. Do you have a plan to do that, or how do you plan on accomplishing that goal?
Well, the product is pretty amazing, and some of the top fishermen in the country have used the product. The biggest thing right now is being able to produce the numbers that they can back. Say, for example, like this last weekend, I was asked, how soon can I have 10,000 units of this? Well, I can't produce 10,000 units the way I'm manufacturing it right now. That's what I talked about, the blow up. So it's time to pull the reins back a little bit and get that set up, cut our production costs to where we even make more money, creating better paying jobs here. And it can actually happen right here in Campbell.
I'm going to ask you the same question as Connor. If we were to give you some money now, what is the immediate need you're going to use that funds for the next step?
Okay, so I had on the graph, go back to that real quick for me. The very first thing and the most important thing is securing the patent, okay? So when you write a provisional patent, that gives you a year to put on your material patent pending, which means nobody else can mess with it. It gives you a year to explore the market, see what's going to happen. You can have a great idea and nobody wants to buy it, or you can have a great idea and people are going to buy it. This is brand new to the fishing industry. Nobody's ever seen or done anything like this before. So there's been kind of a slow uptake, but as soon as people get it and they're out fishing their buddies, then their buddies get it. And it's just like this domino effect thing that's happened. And I've actually slowed down on my Facebook posts and my TikTok posts and stuff like that for that reason. I've got to get manufacturing in place to bring on some stuff. So fund utilization is the patent work, absolutely, and it's super expensive. But with that in place, that's going to allow lenders like what would you call it? I'm trying to think of the word here. Like putting up your house, basically. That patent is worth billions of dollars in the end when you do a 20-year stretch on it. Literally, hundreds of billions actually.
So then, once you have the patent, your next step would then be to get the manufacturing. You can manufacture 10,000 units. What does that look like?
Well, with an injection molding, whether it be just the mold itself to start out with, get that process started. Okay, and it's actually a timely process. It's about almost 2 months to get one of those machined. To get the machine and the equipment and stuff here, that takes some time. The good thing is we have the University of Wyoming Gillette College that has an awesome machine program right here. So a lot of these kids coming out of school know how to run this equipment already. So there is a little bit of time. I think by the end of 2024, you're going to see some phenomenal growth in this.
And what all does it take to set up a manufacturing facility in Gillette as far as equipment, footprint? You know, do you have a rough capital idea what that takes to get this thing going where you want it?
To get it set up the way I want it is about $750K. So obviously there's going to be some lenders involved in this. And that would be able to mass produce. If you've seen some of my goals like on 2024, jumping into international sales, that's obviously the US sales are good, but also the commercial market, something that we are test driving, is way bigger than the recreational market. When I say way bigger, this is 7.4 billion. The commercial market is over 60 billion. And these things work. We've had really good test results with these working in crab pots and lobster pots as far as saving the fishermen money and time loading it. And they actually retain more crab and lobsters in their pots, and they don't have to fill bait every time like you've seen on Deadliest Catch. And that might be something else you guys see in the future. A little tidbit. You good? You guys want to play with any of this stuff? We got other people up here. Badachi Guitars, you did awesome, man. I appreciate you. You've also got somebody pretty special in the audience tonight. I'll let you guys say who that is.
Okay, we are up to finalist number 3. That's going to be Mark Thorson with Inflatrix. You're going to learn about a very interesting dental surgery product. Mark?
You finished? Yes. Good. A typical leather belt. I'm familiar with that device. Not one with a 75-foot rappelling cord built into the buckle. Fire, and out shoots a piton, followed by a high-tensile wire designed to support your weight. I see. And what if I need additional support? It's tested for 100.
And that was the spark of Inflatrix. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. I'm Mark Thorson. I have had careers as a solo general dentist in professional dental sales. I've been an educator in my own private career schools and at the college level. And I've been an entrepreneur and an innovator my entire adult. My experiences in education have combined to motivate me to want to make dentistry better for people. I live that life. I've put a team together over a long time. Let me tell you a little bit more about the story, because it's a cute story. My family and I were watching, James has been past the screen now. We were watching GoldenEye in 2000 on VHS. And that scene played. I hit pause on the remote. I ran out of the room. I disappeared for an hour. And when I came back, popcorn was all gone. The kids were ready for bed. But I had captured the spark of Inflatrix on a drawing. That's important for the basis of the story. In the time since 2000, I've been able to put together a team. Frank Patterson, FP Solutions, is my chief engineer and responsible for significant improvements in the design and the functionality of Inflatrix. The unit we have right now, the judges are handling it right now, looks nothing like the very first one. And it functions in a totally different way. Andy Evans with Precision Tooling in Buffalo. Andy actually came down tonight to join us for the event. Thank you, Andy. Andy is our expert in tools, dies, manufacturing process. Eric Nesham is a lifelong friend of mine, but also a bit of a wizard, actually. Looks like one of them. But rather than carrying a big wooden staff, he carries a welding rod. He's anything to do with machines or systems or motors, anything pneumatic, hydraulic. That's his game, made significant. I also want to thank my lovely wife, Christy, who is the voice of reason and calming effect over some of the ups and downs that have happened over the course of our 20-plus years in this process. She helped me become a better leader for this team to make sure we all stay on track and keep going forward. How many of you have had a filling? Raise your hand. How many of you knew what was going on in there at the time? Good, okay? That's good. Then patients want 3 things from dentists. The first is, please do a really good job. The second one is, please do that excellent job as quickly and efficiently as possible. And the third one, please say it along with me, please don't hurt me. Right, exactly. Thank you very much. And that is true. Now, the processes that have been in place and the methods used put those fillings in people's back teeth overall, many, have evolved moderately over actually 100 years. The problem is that it is tedious, it's slow, It's very much equipment and little pieces heavy. A lot of individual equipment and instruments that must be used. In fact, can usually only be used in that way. I'll show you some pictures in a moment. The solution is Inflatrix. Inflatrix is one piece. It's simple, it's elegant, it slides into place, it's comfortable, and it's efficient. Here's some images of the oldest of the old methods. Specific instruments, bands, wedges, everything has to be seen, handled, categorized. Even the wooden wedges that are generally forced between the teeth to help keep the individual pieces of this contraption all together. Again, this is not bad. I've used this. This works. That's why it's been around for so long. Okay? Tedium and the difficulty are the point. All the wedges have to be categorized, handled. Thank you. Thank you, God. Hope that's better. Even in the most current methods, the units come in these beautiful little tackle boxes. Isn't this fun? No offense on the tackle boxes, right? But the price tag that you see here is actually legitimate. What you see in these kits, doctors can place somewhere between 25 and 35 fillings with this group of equipment. It winds up being okay. And in fact, some of the pieces are even reusable. That's a fancy plier and these little rings and everything. They reused. That's awesome, but they can only be reused here in this method. Okay. Now, one of the issues, I mentioned it takes a long time. Highly skilled, experienced clinicians, dentists, dental assistants who handle these kind of pieces of equipment, who are the ones placing the materials in your mouth, will require an average of 60 seconds to place everything around the tooth, get everything set up the way it's supposed to be, before they're even able to put the material in the tooth now. Okay? That works. I've done it. That is what it is. Inflatrix, and here it comes. Here's Inflatrix. I'm going to walk across now. Inflatrix is here. It's one piece. These bubbles will inflate with water. There's a tube that connects them in between that replaces the wedge. That process gets the doctor ready to put the filling in the teeth in 10 seconds. Time is money, even at this level. It matters. It's also more comfortable, and the end result for the patient is less what's called postoperative soreness. Really makes a difference. In terms of intellectual property protection, we have 3 patents. First one was granted in 2002 when the technology to build Inflatrix was far behind. We couldn't even build it the way it was designed. Over these 20 and some years, the technology has caught up with us. As I mentioned, we've made significant redesigns and improvement in the device as itself. Again, the judges have it in their hand. And so we have a second patent that has just been granted this past spring that gives us coverage for the design now. We have a third patent in process that will cover the utility. Thanks for introducing that, Ray. Appreciate that. We also have a full trademark protection on the word Inflatrix, and I've owned the domain inflatrix.com for 5 years. So we have lots of good confidence about protecting those aspects. About a year and a half ago, we were able to send a demonstration model to a group of doctors around the country. They couldn't put it in the mouth. We asked them for their feedback about concepts and about functionality and what would they predict about whether using it functionality or not. First response was very likely using it on ideal prep design. That means that when the cavity in the tooth is literally perfect, it's literally small and it's easy to do. I very much like the concept. I love the idea of no wedge and that it is stretchy. The stretch makes a difference. It helps with that ease of placement and speed of placement. We're not setting records here, that's not the point. But the fact that it stretches is a significant contributor to the ease and simplicity. Found it very interesting, very likely to use this device. Awesome. tremendous feedback from actual doctors. Now, what's not typed here is that every single one of them typed, like I asked me later, Mark, please, can I have one of these that I put in the mouth? Can you do that? I want to use this with my next patient. Okay, well, like I mentioned, technology is caught up now. We are building clinically viable devices. That's the one that the judges have in their hand right now. And we're anxious to do that. That's the next step. Our market is defined by several factors. One is, selfishly, my clinical experiences. In my clinical career, I placed several thousand of these types of fillings in back teeth, and my own experience says 25% of them are going to be ideal. Okay? That's also part of the American Dental Association statistic. They have the figures that we've done in our own research to show that more than 80 million of this kind of filling in back teeth is done every single year in America. Every single year. Okay? A quarter of that market is 20 million. I like that math. That's a wonderful market share. Excellent target. We have, like I said, positive feedback. We're going to be making our sales to doctors directly by way of channels that are thoroughly understood. They're already being used. We don't have to reinvent this wheel. That process is going to happen. Now, investors, please pay attention. Inflatrix is definitely going to disrupt this market. Definitely. There have been no significant changes in this segment of the dental marketplace in decades. Disruption going to happen. Our business plan is in two phases. First phase, two components, two actions running simultaneously. We are going to take our existing devices, because they are clinically viable, send them out to our current pool of evaluating doctors, which is growing every day. By the way, I've been able to recruit 3 dentists in Wyoming just in the last week. Anybody that's out there who's practicing dentist, get in touch. I need your feedback, please. But action 1 and 2 will be expanding the pool while we are getting the current device into the hands of current doctors, getting their feedback, making revisions while growing the doctor pool, sending out the new devices to the bigger doctor pool. And we anticipate that cycle happening no more than 3 times. We expect to take approximately 6 months to be at the point where we have proven the concept. As Frank likes to say, we will then have frozen the recipe. I like that phrase. It's fun. At that point of freezing the recipe, we can begin significant intentional upgrades and ramping up production. Okay? We have connections with companies that will build us high-speed, high-level production machines. As well as, again, in phase 2, marketing, creating the marketing content. Significant numbers of materials have to go out, again, in known channels, one of which is the standard multimedia, social media type activities, and the other one is live presentations and booth space in the convention world. This is annual, year-round, in fact, cycle in the dental world. That was part of my own professional dental career in sales, and I'm good at it. I'm happy to do that, look forward to that. Our cost analysis is something we're very, very pleased with. It will cost us between 6 and 15 cents per unit to build Inflate. The variation is from our raw materials. There's a variation. It's a volume versus cost variable. We will have our target price at $1 a unit. We will sell Inflatrix in groups of 100 to 150. We're going to be making 3 or 4 sizes. That's all we talk about, one piece, all we have. My tackle box is going to have 4 slots in it. Okay? But 100 to 150 each kit. Our profit margin is going to be awesome. 85 cents, 85%. I'm very happy. I like that math too. Okay? That's really wonderful, but it will allow us to grow our business, reinvest in our business, and in our workforce. We really need to have an excellent workforce. Gillette and our area around us is a wonderful place for skilled labor. Our growth projections are well studied. We expect a modest response in year one. That's how dentists roll, something brand new. I am one, I know the life, I've thought the thought, I've sold to these people. We expect a modest response for a brand new item. However, in year two, we expect a significant splash. We really do. When it catches on, a fun way to say it is when dentists bite, they bite hard. Pardon the pun, okay? And in year three, we're really going to climb. The local aspects of our business will be in Gillette and in the state in every possible way. We will have as much interaction with resources. I've made relationships with Manufacturing Works here with the university and established basic game plans for this manufacturing launch. On the right side of the screen, you see our job creation projections, year one, year two, year three. We will make a significant contribution to our area. And as was stated before, we have a wonderful group of skilled labor and a great pool to work with. For our local impact, I'm going to repeat it, bears repeating. Inflatric will disrupt this market. We have established relationships in the professional realms in Gillette, in accounting, banking, insurance, and the legal profession. These are professionals that know us and are ready to go to work once we're off the ground. All of the manufacturing that we do will be in town here. We will use local commercial space. We have a place to start right now. It'll start small, but it's a place where we have a good base right now. We estimate that in the first 3 years of the business, we will put more than $3 million into our area economy. We're very pleased about that. And we have a stretch goal for hiring for the next 3 to 5 years, 12 to 14 new jobs. So we're comfortable with those things. We have significant confidence in the device itself. The first place we'll spend our winnings will be in the raw materials and tools and dies to make that first batch to go into phase one, action one. We have the designs, the tools, and everything is laid out for us. So we need to get it all purchased, everything put together. The actual machinery is very, very basic benchtop tools. And the tools and dies then will be the driving force of creating the specific. After that, we will be creating a lot of video. Video now is absolutely mandatory, and it needs to be the answer. So we get that into our channels. We have local resources for that as well, even in the Fuel Center. I'm very grateful that you would take time. The spark of Inflatric from 22 years ago is still growing. But what's exciting is where we're going. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I guess I say the same thing every time. We may need to start on the other side here, but you know, you're 23 years in from the initial idea. I know you said that technology kind of didn't exist in the early phases, so obviously a long draw from there. What has changed now that allows this idea to move to the next level, if you will, that hasn't happened in the prior 20 years? Why now?
Now is the right time for reaching the dental marketplace, this segment of the marketplace. Like I mentioned, there's not been any significant ground-shaking development for a long, long time. Dentists don't see this kind of thing coming. This is yes, we theoretically could have done something like this 4 years ago, but the timing with our own processes, our own economic situations and the ability that we've had to get the team in this shape and now create devices on purpose that reflect the technology that we have and have allowed us to actually develop the units that you guys have in front of you. That couldn't have been done. Only, in fact, it's only been available for us to do on a predictable basis over the last maybe 3 years, more likely 2. So the technology has taken time to catch up, but now the dental market as well is basically as ripe as it could be.
Obviously, one of the biggest factors that 100% of your growth. How do you feel you're qualified to head down that road, have another somebody who's done this, or what's the with so much bearing on that?
Thank you for asking. The FDA has classified Inflatrix as what's called a Class 1 device. The parallel that everybody understands would be a toothbrush. This is a very, very basic device in terms of what the FDA is interested in. Their rules and laws, and they deal with laws, require, frankly, minimal involvement with a huge amount of science. They don't require a huge amount of science. You don't have to prove or do research with this. It's nothing like people hear about with the pharmaceutical companies or surgical devices inserted in the body, those kinds of things. We frankly don't need another expert. Thank you for bringing that up. What we need is following the basic rules and laws. And again, my engineer, Frank, has had significant experience with other projects that have been parallel to this in terms of the FDA. But I've also reached out and spoken with several of FDA dental and medical device experts and confirmed these points. We're very confident about the fact that it will be, yes, it's necessary. Yes, it's legal. And once we have met all the steps underneath the FDA umbrella, we're supposed to get the FDA seal of approval. And in fact, there are some matrix products already that are not even sterile. Okay? We are going to be, because they're going to be single-use devices. Open a little door here on that topic, but they will be sterilized. And doctors will use them once and put them into their biohazard waste and never worry about them again.
So with a lot of the foundation work already being done, you guys have a lot of things in place with banking, legal, financial, a lot of projections, a lot of time put into this. Where do you see as your probable failure point that's going to ruin this enterprise that you're worried
Wow.
about?
I don't like the word failure, but I've lived through a fair amount of them in my life. That those are learning experiences. If there's going to be a place where there's a break point and the F word, it is in the time it takes for doctors to respond. We know this. Again, I took several years, 8 years in professional dental sales. I know these things. Doctors, when it takes time to get across to them, they need some time to really embrace, okay? A lot of marketing materials get built for that exact purpose. That's why I really like the live venues, the conventions, and the show circuit, because you put it in their hand. That's one thing to show a video. You can show a video on the phone all day. And what does that mean? But put it in their hands, give them samples, get their feedback, follow them for the feedback. Those types of things to help build those, believe it or not, it's relationship, even on the mass level. So we have those plans, but to answer your question directly, it's that point right there. And that's why I say when they bite hard. I get it, okay? And the biggest question that doctors will ask me if I stand in front of them, why should I change? I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. Works. And the answer is this gives you an equal or better result in far less time. It can be a trust builder for the patients. With the old style equipment, the doctors don't say, and look what I stuck in your teeth over there earlier. That's really cool. You never have. Anybody ever have that happen? No. Okay. It may be that the Inflatrix can build trust by saying, look how squishy that is. Okay? Or little Jimmy, who's 5, got his first filling, and look, Mom, we didn't even look at that. That's all it was. Okay, that's entirely possible with inflation. It's new, it's tech, it's fun, I dare say.
Can you talk to us about the machinery that you're going to initially buy and how much that costs? Because that's what you said you're using your seed money for. And how many units you can produce.
Excellent question. Thank you. That equipment, all told, is roughly $6,000 to $8,000. The raw materials are $400 or $500, which will produce many thousand units. Again, we've done this math. Thank you for that question. The actual machinery is called a basic punch press. It's bolted to a desk, a bench, and the raw materials are pulled into the dies that are then locked down over the top and activate the press. And the dies that Andy's creating for us are capable of creating somewhere between 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 units per stroke. Okay? So if it's one unit, one punch press, it'll take a little time to create several hundred to get us out there. But in terms of seed money, that's what's going to work. That's going to be some of our skilled labor, some of our earliest skilled laborers to operate those kind of situations. But as things build, and frankly, we have a couple of other investing opportunities that are already talking to us about several $100,000. And with that kind of money, we have 8 punch presses. Or we even get up at phase 2, as I mentioned. Once we prove the concept, and as Frank loves to say, freeze that recipe, we will be able to get started with high-speed equipment. We have connections that have already quoted us to build, custom build high-speed equipment that has the capability of generating 10,000 units an hour. And they will deliver it, they will set it up, assemble it, they will educate the employees. That's in the 700,000 to 800,000. But at that point, we know we will have the doctors biting. Keep going back there, but that's the way it's best to be thought. And once we have that in hand, then it's a matter of the right kind of commercial space, making sure that we've met the requirements. Another question was asked previous presenters. There are no real serious mandate for, these materials are not going to create hazardous waste. We're not burning anything. We're not going to worry about environmental impacts. We're just using the materials in a controlled way. Again, we're very comfortable with what it would take to assemble everything in a specific space and go to work.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, we are up to finalist number 4, and that's going to be wind turbine blade recycling. We've got Jess and Cameron Anderson. Let's give them a hand.
Good evening. I'm Jess Anderson with my son and partner Cameron, along with Seth Basham with Wyoming Research Institute from Laramie. Me and Cameron currently work a company called Seal-Rite Flanges, where we manufacture and market steel flange that I had developed, patented, to eliminate methane emissions on under a thief hatch on oil field production tanks. So that's where the Seal-Rite comes from. It's not real fitting for this process, but when you see Seal-Rite, that's Cameron and myself. So I came to Gillette, not a native, came to Gillette in 1988, so 35 years now. I've been involved in retail fuel business, truck transportation, including over-the-road trucking, refined fuels, and oil field trucking, which I still do some of today. So I've had an interest probably for the last 3 or 4 years in wind turbine blades, or recycling them specifically. I've just felt there has to be something better to do with them than simply landfill them, which has happened a lot in the past and continues to happen some yet today. Probably 3 or 4 months ago, well, along with that, as I explored that, I just found it very difficult to get much information. I just couldn't seem to figure out how I might enter that market. So it was very frustrating to even get a look at a blade, or let alone get a hold of one to experiment with. But probably 3 or 4 months ago, we were on a phone call with WRI and Laramie on an unrelated topic. We were discussing polymers, but at the end of our phone call, they started going through some of the things that they have or were currently researching, and one of them was wind turbine blades, and that they had researched and developed a process, a thermochemical process for recycling turbine blades. So I said, well, we need to talk, and that started a dialogue over the last 3 or 4 months that have brought us to where we are here today. The majority of their work to this point has been on proof of concept, with not a lot of emphasis on the economics of the process, but we're confident there is an economic way to do this. So our intention is to continue to work with WRI with additional research needed to explore economics and optimize the process, which would include taking the process they've developed from their lab scale testing to a pilot scale testing at a plant here in Gillette. And then, assuming the process can be executed economically, we would intend to license WRI's process and take that to full commercialization here in Gillette and Campbell County as well. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Cameron, and he will discuss other points.
All right. Like my dad mentioned, that transition from pilot to commercialization is ultimately what would lead to job creation here in Gillette. And we think that's one of the most significant impacts that our idea, or this idea, could offer to the Gillette community. When you look at job creation, I think you're always acting on certain assumptions, and we have listed a few that we've considered up to this point. The first one being the collecting, grinding, and transportation of blade material will be handled by a third party. In terms of volume projections, we're using the estimations of 800 to 1,600 tons of blade material processed per year, which would generate 600 to 1,200 tons of additive and $1.2 to $2.4 million in revenue per year. And then additionally, and probably most importantly, it could generate as much as 10 full-time jobs, examples being plant operations, product transportation, sales, and marketing. Estimated expenses associated with setting up a pilot in Gillette. We felt like this was important to touch on, just because if we are selected as one of the winners, I think a big chunk of that money is going to have to go towards equipment and materials needed to move forward with the pilot. Once again, a few assumptions with that. The first one being turbine blades would already be prepped prior to arrival at our facility. We'd be utilizing a batch process versus a continuous process. Utilize some existing pilot infrastructure and equipment from team members. Obviously, we'll need to get with WRI, figure out what they have at their disposal that could maybe be brought up to Gillette for our pilot. And then production range will fall somewhere between 2 and 20 gallons, which is significantly larger volume than WRI has explored up to this point. Total expenses are estimated to be around $38,000. Here we have itemized equipment breakdown as well as a timeline. Not going to go line by line on the equipment, but as you can see, the total there for all equipment needed is just under $27,000. And then in addition to the equipment, we expect to need an additional $5,000 to $10,000 for solvents as well as other miscellaneous expenses associated with additional testing. On the bottom there, we have a timeline, rough estimate of kind of what we envision as it pertains to commercialization, moving this process forward. Starting with a few months of additional research to begin 2024. We think 3 to 4 months will be ideal, and that would also give us some time to collect the equipment needed to set up the pilot. At that point, the goal would be 6 to 9 months of pilot scale testing. That's going to be required to optimize the process and better understand the economics, as my dad kind of alluded to. And then assuming the process can be executed profitably, as my dad mentioned, the next step would be commercialization. And the goal with that is early 2025 to, assuming we move forward, have a plant that is set up and operational at some scale. One thing I feel like we've talked about a lot in the past few weeks is all of the good that's already come from being associated with this process. I think from being named as a finalist, the news record article, our appearance on the radio, we've had a ton of positive feedback, and we've had a lot of different people reach out to us wanting to learn, more about our goals, more about WRI's process, and then some industry people specifically are curious if there's opportunities for us to maybe work together or if they can help in any way. One company specifically that we've felt provided us with a lot of clarity about our business model is Wind Power Solutions, which is a Wyoming company based out of Casper. They basically middleman between the energy companies and the recyclers. And so they're involved in that decommissioning process. They shred blades, and then will deliver the shredded material to a recycler. That company is growing quickly, and they're kind of actively looking for new recycling companies that can take on shredded material. Value for us in that relationship, I think for starters, they've already built forward-facing relationships with these energy companies. They're actively decommissioning, they're out there bidding on repowers, and so we feel like they could provide us with a very consistent blade source. And then in addition to that, it really does simplify our business model, allows us to be hyper-focused on one piece of the process specifically. During our semifinalist presentation, I think there was still quite a few unknowns in terms of how involved we could be or would be, for that matter, in decommissioning and shredding of the blades, basically everything that takes place prior to the recycling process. And I think, after we presented and left and had a chance to talk about that, the reality of that situation is trying to take on that process as a whole from start to finish. It really is a lot. And this relationship with Wind Power Solutions, it provides us with an opportunity to outsource some of that decommissioning and the shredding. It takes a lot off of our plate and provides us with a much clearer picture of what our business would look like, as well as how it'll operate. On this slide, we have a financial model outline. We do still feel like there's probably too many unknowns to get real specific as far as financial modeling goes, but we did kind of want to put everything out, paint a picture of what the model would look like based on what we know right now. So on the left, starting with revenue sources, through our conversations with WPS, we learned that they will typically pay their recyclers to take that shredded material and recycle it. And so price point on that is typically $350 to $500 a ton. The recycling agent, which is a byproduct of WRI's process, estimated market value of that product is $1,500 to $2,500 per ton. And then the reclaimed fiberglass, Another byproduct of WRI's process, estimated market value of that is $110 to $150 per ton. And then on the other side, we have expenses. We know that equipment and materials associated with running this process, specifically going from the pilot to a commercial scale plant, is going to be our biggest expense. And without a better understanding of output volume and kind of where we want to be as an end goal, we couldn't put a real concrete number to that right now. Royalty to WRI, that's been mentioned by my dad. Once again, we've got to get with WRI, kind of better understand the economics of this whole process before we can hash out the details. But we do know that'll need to be factored into the model. And then the last one, pretty broad, operating expenses, salaries, wages, utilities, maintenance, kind of all the day-to-day expenses associated with running a business. Then on the expenses side of things, one thing we did think was noteworthy, my dad does have 40 acres of land with an 8,400 square foot shop on the property. Assuming we do move forward, that would significantly reduce capital required to reach commercialization. So with that, I'll hand it over to Seth. He'll speak a little bit to WRI's process and the work they've done to point.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Seth. I'm here representing WRI, as well as some of our partners that have been supporting us in this. Those include Vestas, Owens Corning, Vinci Construction, Seal Right Flanges, Driven Plastics, and YDOT. So currently there's about 73,000 turbines in the United States. NREL estimates there will be 2.2 million tons of turbine blade waste by the year 2050. And by 2030, we'll be producing about 100,000 tons of end-of-life turbine blades every year. Since 2020, 600 turbines have been installed in Wyoming, doubling our wind generation capacity. Chokecherry and Sierra Madre plan to double this amount again with 5 new wind farms planned. And if all of these go to schedule, Wyoming will go from the 14th to within the top 5 states for wind energy. These photos were taken in Arlington, Wyoming back in 2021. And as you can see, these are some decommissioned wind turbine blades, and there's a lot of waste from these. And as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, these wind turbine blades are being landfilled in places like Casper. So they're not really providing a whole lot of value right now. So that's what we would like to do, is take these and find a way to add value. So we take our wind turbine blades and employ some strategies to try and do stuff in a circular economy. So one of the things we do is we take a reactive solvent and we react it with these wind turbine blades. Now this solvent is biorenewable, so it's derived from plants. So this is a strategy of carbon capture and sequestration. And upon reacting with the wind turbine blades, this solvent extracts and reacts with the epoxy resins in the blades, which make up about 30%. This upcycles it into this dark oil you see there at the bottom. This is our recycling agent. And this stuff can be taken and mixed into old roads that get ripped up. All the cracked highways you see, you can take those, rip them up, mix them with these recycling agents, and then lay them back down and make new roads and rejuvenated roads. As for the glass fiber, this stuff can be sent to people like Owens Corning for remelt, and that in itself is just recycling. We can put this stuff potentially right back into new wind turbine blades or other glass products or glass fiber. So here we have some of our products and some of our starting material. We have there on the right, that dark oil, that's our wind turbine blade that's been reacted with our solvent, cocoamine, and that produces our recycling agent you see there. We have in the middle our reclaimed glass fiber, and then you can see on there the shredded wind turbine blades. Those were from Vestas. We've also done this with just cut wind turbine blades. That little block you see there, we've been able to extract that and kind of produce longer fibers. And that's kind of an interesting result. We weren't expecting to be able to extract the block so successfully. So these rejuvenating agents, we can kind of test them, and we like to test them against something that we can benchmark against an industry standard. So there's a rejuvenator out there that's currently used in multiple states already. And so we kind of test it against this. The way we do that is we take an aged asphalt, we mix these rejuvenators back into them, and then we compare them. So you can see by this graph here, which shows upper temperature PG. I won't discuss exactly what that means, but you can see it's quite similar, and this is actually showing that it's a slightly better result in some cases. So this is very promising for this product as a rejuvenator for asphalt. And with that, any questions from the judges?
Thank you for that. I'm going to steal Sam's question, and that is, what's going to prohibit you from moving forward?
I can take that one. I think it would be fair to say that a lot of this does hinge on being able to execute the process profitably. And I think we've kind of painted a picture and set the framework out, so to speak, to show that everything else, it kind of feels like it's falling into place, but that is kind of the one unknown, and that's why additional research does need to be done to kind of see that through. And yeah, I was going to say Seth can probably speak to the approach thus far and things that could maybe be further addressed to improve upon the process.
Thermochemical process, it can be improved. Again, this is just a proof of concept right now, so we start this research kind of brute force. So we do high temperature and large amounts of solvent. A lot of that we could probably scale back. We could probably do lower temperature. Certainly, we need to experiment, find out where we can scale those things back. But it has lots of potential to improve and become a better process, and thus more economically viable.
So with this process, do you guys have any legal or regulatory or compliance issues that you have to get through to make this commercialized outside the testing process?
I don't know quite specifically what that looks like. The solvent we use has some toxicity. You would have to be careful with it, like a lot of chemicals. But other than that, I don't know too much about what that would look like in safety, regulatory issues.
What stopped you? Obviously, WRI has the secret sauce. What stops Wind Power Solutions, other big power solutions companies like that? Wyoming's just getting into the side of it. This is already a pretty big thing down south, coast, Great Lake. What stops these guys from beating you to market and being able to process these things faster? Coming in, that is WRI specifically with you guys, no matter what, they go outside of that, or?
We haven't discussed, or I guess honed in on any sort of exclusive relationship, but I guess I've been encouraged by our conversations up to this point. I know that WRI places a large emphasis on Wyoming as a state and trying to keep these technologies locally. And to your point, yes, this is happening in other places already, although I will say their technology is very innovative and different, and the byproducts are more valuable, which is part of what makes it more appealing. But with that, based on the conversations we've had with the people that are handling decommissioning right now, it does sound like this region specifically is fairly untapped. And so, to your point, speed to market, I don't necessarily know that we would be able to beat somebody necessarily on that alone, but I think if you look at our intentions and the innovation associated with their technology, it does maybe give us a unique. And you know, the other thing I feel like we touched on during the semifinalist presentation is going back to regionally recycling being somewhat untapped. They're big and not easy to move, and so proximity to where they're being decommissioned does play a major factor in this. And so, based on the conversations we've had with Wind Power Solutions up to this point, we feel like we could have a cost advantage, at least as it pertains to wind farms that are near or in Wyoming.
So kind of the future market looking forward, I think your numbers were roughly 2.1 million.
Right.
And then we got 100,000 of these.
Right.
What is the difference of a manufacturing process of a wind turbine or of the blade? Is it going to be they're all the same, or we're only going to be able to do 50% recycling, or we don't know what the future technology is going to be, or how much variance is there of what the market is out there right now that you are able to potentially recycle?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's something that is definitely going to have to be explored a little bit more. As we've had conversations, even in the past few weeks, we've learned a lot. Like you said, blade composition, it's different. You know, there's some that is predominantly fiberglass. You might have a foam, a balsa wood, carbon fiber. So as we continue to move forward with the testing, that's something that we're going to look at. And to your point, once again, I think if you're going to brand yourself as a recycler, you want to find a solution for every piece of that blade, right? Not just say, well, this is what works with our process and this is what's good for us, and never mind the rest of it, landfill it, or, you know, do whatever else you want to do with it.
What's the overall, if it does go to commercialization and you go with full scale flat, what does that look like financial wise? What's the capital outlay? What's the total employment at full scale? What would revenue?
That still a little bit remains to be seen. We posed that exact question as far as capital costs associated with even something that would accommodate the projections that were given during this presentation. And WRI just felt like there was additional questions that needed answering. I know we used 800 to 1,600 tons, and Seth, on one of his slides, you know, he touches on 100,000 tons of waste by 2030. And so I think we were conservative from a volume standpoint. I mean, we're aiming to tap into 1 to 1.5% of that market with those projections. And obviously, if you can exceed that, it's going to lead to more jobs and additional revenue as well. And I think the other thing that's been encouraging, going back to the conversations with Wind Power Solutions, I know that basically all the work WRI had done up to this point, they looked at blade material as basically a zero cost, not a revenue source. And so that alone is a pretty interesting piece of information, because that's definitely going to change the economics.
Yeah, and one thing about the economics, it changes certainly with the research. That's why we need to do more of that to, again, like I said, a lot of this is kind of brute force. We want to scale these things back, optimize it. And then once we optimize it, we can plug that stuff into a model, get a better idea of what capital costs be for this process. Like so many processes, it's slow going, but that's the process you move by.
And then do you have a marketing plan for the Rejuvenator and how to actually sell that product, much less just have it available?
Yeah, I'll let Seth speak to that, but I think WRI has done a great job in terms of developing relationships for companies that would ultimately be end users for several byproducts of their process.
Mm-hmm. So rejuvenating asphalt is a huge thing. So asphalt, you may not know this, but it's the most recycled material in the world. And we just keep building roads. We need roads all the time. So I think that it's a market that continues to grow, and you're just going to need more Rejuvenator. And you can set these at a price point that are competitive with other Rejuvenators, like that benchmark I showed you, that Rejuvenator, it works quite similar to that one. So I think in that way you can edit and get into the market.
One of my concerns is that this is such a huge project, and it's such a huge project that's going to do so much good, I think, in the future, making money, jobs, creation, whatever. One of my concerns is that I wish I had $5 million to give you. I may only have a drop in the bucket for you. So how are you going to use that drop in the bucket for the better good compared to some of these other little companies where a drop in the bucket is going to mean a lot? So can you kind of talk about how you're going to use the and the leverage for success?
Yeah, absolutely. I think additional research is key, and that has to be the focus. And so with that initial 5,000, I think we'd have to sit down with WRI and try to understand how that could best be used as far as further tests, trying to figure out how we can optimize it. And then I know we reconvene and see if there's other opportunities out there. We're continuing to explore additional funding opportunities across the state. It sounds like there's a few different entities that may be open to fund matching depending on how this plays out. But yeah, I think the focus and your funding, a key part of it is that you're funding, in a way, our involvement and Gillette's community's involvement, in this opportunity. And yes, to your point, $5,000 is not going to get us ultimately to where we want to be, and that's okay. We knew that coming in, and we're grateful for any additional funding that we're able to come up with to try to push this forward. But my dad and I are excited to be involved. We think it's a great opportunity for Gillette, and I think the reality of it is WRI is in the business of getting technologies to market, right? They research and develop these technologies so that they can be utilized. And if we're not able to push it forward, or another Wyoming company is not able to push it forward, and eventually somebody from Colorado or Utah or wherever it is comes in and says, hey, we want to work with you and figure this out, and they're able to run with it, that to me is a loss for the state as a whole, to let that go out of the state, because yeah, it's a really unique technology, and it's cool that it's being worked on already by WRI and Laramie.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
Okay, thank you everybody for holding on until our final Energy Capital Startup Challenge presenter is Randall and Shonda Otwell with their Water Rippler product. So let's welcome them.
Good evening. My name is Randall Otwell. This is my wife, Shonda, and we're the owners of Agricultural Innovation. We are blessed to be here tonight to show you our product design. First, a little history. My wife is a Wyoming native, grew up in Oshodo, Wyoming. She's a fourth-generation rancher. She has a business degree from the University of Wyoming. Myself, I moved to Wyoming in '89 after getting out of the military. I have a journeyman lineman's license, a master's electrician's license, a journeyman electrician's license, and an MSHA electrician's license. I tell you this because it will be important as we go through our presentation. All right, now let me set the stage for our product. January 1st, 2019. I wake up in the morning, first thing I have to do is go out and open the water for the livestock. It's well below zero, has been for a few days. As you guys that live in Wyoming understand Wyoming winters. Winds blowing. I put on absolutely every ounce of clothing that I can find to go outside. Okay? My first project is a stock tank opening water. I get to the stock tank. I have a 1,500 watt stock tank heater running in that stock tank. Stock tank's froze completely over. I take the axe and I start chopping ice. 45 minutes later, roughly, I'm out of breath, I'm tired, I'm sweating, I'm mad. I finally get enough of the stock tank open. The water's coming in now. The cows are pushing me out of the way. They're wanting something to drink. Next step, I head to the next stock tank. About 300 yards away inside a corral, I find the exact same thing. 1,500 watt stock tank heater running, completely froze over. I start chopping ice. First off, right up next to the stock tank heater, the ice is about 6 inches thick. The further I get away, the thicker the ice gets. I'm still mad. I'm tired. I'm sweating. I finally have had enough. I lose my cool. Anybody that knows me understands. The next swing of the axe, it ends up in the heifer barn. I was done. I was rethinking what I was doing for a living and decided something had to change. That evening, I went into the shop and I developed the water rippler. Ice has been an age-old problem in the ag industry. Every animal needs something to drink, especially during the winter months. What are the current solutions? Well, there aren't any that are economical or effective to operate in the industry today. But what is a good solution? I'm going to show you a video of 2023, November 30th. It's 3 degrees. I'll let the video speak for itself. Good morning, November 30th, 2023. It was 3 degrees at daylight this morning, about 8:30. I think it's up to 8 degrees here at Oshodo, Wyoming. And came out to check the stock tank that I have my cows watering at. And I found the water ripplers doing what water ripplers do, keeping the ice off the tank and the cows to drink. Now, as you can see, there is ice on the tank, but as you can also see, there's open water. Open water. 1,000-gallon tank, 2 water ripplers, 22 cents a day to run each, or 22 cents a day to run both of them. And chopping ice has just become pushing through the ice. Look how far away I was from the rippler. Let's get over here on the back side where there's no rippling effect. All the way across the tank. Half inch of ice at the best. Okay, this is a normal day in Wyoming through the winter. Now I'm going to take you back a year to when we knew that the product we had designed since 2019 had finally come to fruition, and it worked. February 2022, 22 below. Tank was froze over. But what was happening under the ice? 3 inches of ice. Water was running under the ice. The entire tank had water moving under it. The entire 1,000-gallon tank only had 3 inches of ice. No more 6 inches and further. 300 yards away where I threw the axe into the wall, same stock tank, same heater running again, 6 inches of ice at the element. The further you got away from the element, the thicker the ice went. That's when we knew we had something that worked. That's when we knew it was viable and economical. Now I'm going to turn it over to Shonda and let her talk to you about the economics.
So the videos have shown how effective the product is. Of it. All the stock tank heaters, and that is our primary competitor at this time, are 1,500 watt stock tank heaters. They use 1.5 kilowatt hours of electricity every hour, and so for a 24-hour period of time, they're going to use 36 kilowatt hours. Current Powder River Energy charges will make that $3.39 a day to run a stock tank heater. We figure in this area, we are mitigating ice for 5 months out of the year. That's our seasonal estimate. So you're going to pay over $500 in electricity charges to run one stock tank heater for the season. Our water ripplers are 46 watt. That's 1.1 kilowatt hours in a 24-hour period of time, cost you 11 cents a day. So on the season, you're going to save $492 to replace one stock tank heater with one water rippler. And I keep saying the one stock tank heater, by manufacturer's product packaging, they recommend that a stock tank heater is only good for a 300-gallon stock tank maximum. And so if you have the 900 to 1,000-gallon tanks, you need 3 tank heaters in each tank. So over the season, you're going to use 5,400 kilowatt hours of electricity for one stock tank heater versus 165 kilowatt hours. It's a 97% cost and energy savings. These units are effective, they're economical, the animals absolutely love them. All animals are drawn to the sound of running water. You can go out any given day, even if there's no ice whatsoever on the tank. The animals are gathered around trying to drink right from the ripples. They love running water to drink from. And these units can be taken off-grid with solar power, where currently stock tank heaters can't. So we knew we had an effective product. We knew we had an economical product. So will it sell? We would like right now to really thank Impact 307, the Energy Capital Startup Challenge, the Gillette News Record, and Area 59. They did an interview with us and put it in the news record, released it on Facebook December 2nd. Within 48 hours of that Facebook post going live, it had been shared over 260 times. It had had over 1,000 reactions. And we had had people from 10 different states contacting us, knowing it is no more than a prototype at this point, wanting us to start a wait list and let them know when the products were available. And many of them asking reserve us 3, please reserve us 4, because that's what they're running for stock tank heaters. That was our customer validation. We knew we had a marketable product at that point. So what is our customer base? In the United States, there's 2.5 million agriculturalists in 2023. Those are the households that own either horses, cows, sheep, or goats. We are simply attempting to target 1% of that audience with all of our revenue forecasts. We believe it's pretty realistic. So what does our business plan look like? Based on that 1% customer base in 2024, we've got our startup costs. We won't begin probably manufacture till late spring, so we aren't anticipating having them on the market until third quarter. So there will be a net loss in 2024. We anticipate hiring a minimum of 2 people in 2024. Our labor expenses reflect that, for assisting us with assembly and distribution. Then by 2025, that's where the 1% kicks in, that 2.5 million agriculturalists. If they buy 1 unit, it would be 25,000 units, $3.9 million in sales, and then anticipating growth of a minimum of 0.5% each year following that. So what are we still needing? Our startup costs include some final design costs. We'd like to get a few of our SLA prototypes finalized. These are working prototypes. This prototype we've had done since the semifinals. Really excited about it. These are 3D printed and they can't float for very long because winter weather conditions and water are not real friendly with 3D prototypes. We've got some marketing costs, and then our injection molding tools are kind of all of our startup capital needs. So what have we been doing? Randall gave you the story as to where the idea stemmed from in 2019. We've kind of given you a little picture here of the different prototypes. It took a few years to get something that really worked. But the morning of the video that you saw, I went out with my husband standing at a stock tank, 22 below zero. 4th generation rancher. I looked at it. I'd seen ice in the winters all my life, and I knew we finally had something that truly worked, and it worked economical. And this product could help other ranchers, horse owners, agriculturalists all over the nation. And I said to Randall, it's time to make it a business. So we went ahead, a few weeks later, went to a patent attorney, In January this year, we got a utility patent filed. We've begun some business development with it, looking for some funding, what our sourcing will be when we start ramping up to full production, and trying to tamp down our prototypes to get to manufacturing. We anticipate being to manufacturing spring of 2024. We'll begin a full-blown marketing campaign this summer, primarily trade shows at that point to get the word out there. In all honesty, the word's going to spread fast. That'll be one of the biggest things that we have to control right now, because just with the one News Record article, we've already had several farm publications contact us wanting to get this out there, and we're asking them to hold on a little bit. Let us get a little bit further in the manufacturing process so it doesn't get too far ahead of us and get our audience to lose interest. And then we'll be distributing in the fall of 2024, get it into consumer hands or into their stock tanks, as the case may be. So local impact, if this is a national statistic, but agriculture is the third largest industry in the state of Wyoming. Our Wyoming agriculturalists are going to benefit from this. If 1% of farming households convert one stock tank heater to one water rippler, you are looking at a $12 million cost savings to those ranchers over the course of a season, saving 130 million kilowatt hours of electricity. Job creation, we're looking at the 2 jobs in 2024, a minimum of 6 jobs in 2025. Not certain how we'll build from there, just waiting to see what the product actually does when it hits the market. How will we use the funds? If you choose to award us tonight, we're going to finish the prototype development. We were actually in contact with our engineer today, making a few slight tweaks to get the working prototypes out. We're going to get a website set up, get our social media rolled out, and then we're going to establish some marketing so that we are ready to launch at some of these trade shows. We know we need to be getting on the list for those. Once again, we really appreciate the opportunity that this has provided us with just to share the product idea, kind of put some form around the business, and we'd be happy to entertain any.
So very, very cool product. I myself grew up on a small ranch and have felt the pain of breaking ice in the summer or the winter time. Is there any other, obviously we have states where it's cold in there. Is there any other uses for the product at all that would allow you to open it up to more states?
We believe there is. We currently are looking at, once we get our target audience, which is the northern states, okay, we're looking at what this will do in the southern states for mosquito mitigation and larva mitigation. Mosquitoes cannot lay eggs and hatch in moving water. They have to have stagnant water. So even in your southern states, I honestly believe, we do a little research and get a little development going down there, that the rippling effect that this will keep going will have fresh water in the tanks. Even if you're just recycling the same water, it freshens it, it oxygenates it, and it keeps the larvae and the mosquitoes and the algae from going in these warmer regions. So I do believe it will be able to do that all over the United States.
I've got the same question that I have for Ray. You guys have a very ingenuitive product that you can tell the demand's going to be there for it. What is your commitment to seeing it continue to be produced locally in Gillette, Wyoming?
Well, that's our goal. Right now, I told you my background. I'm an electrician. I'm ranching right now. I don't know how to make plastic. Someone else is going to have to manufacture the plastic, and that's what we're working with now. But I would love to see it stay in Northeast Wyoming for the construction, the assembly, distribution, and keep everything right here local. I don't see there's any reason that we could not do that. For this few years going and into the future, I don't see any reason that we would support it right now.
And so, obviously, you guys have something that people are interested in. That's very exciting, a little different than the semifinals to this point. Congratulations. So with this new energy and this new momentum moving forward, what do you see as your most likely failure point that's going to hold this thing up, and how do you plan on dealing with it?
I'm sorry, I don't understand that word. I would say the biggest failure point is very personal to me. It took me 4 years, to develop. Took me a long time to even let your neighbors see it. I'm not going to fail. Everybody sees this, it's live streamed. It'll go. He's going to ask.
Quick follow-up there. What do you see as your largest hurdle that you need to overcome? You're not entirely certain.
Perfect.
I think our largest hurdle at this time is just tapping down all of the different components of the manufacturing process. We actually, this unit, this is what we designed. But we need to source pumps. We've been in contact with people to become wholesale distributors of pumps. There's power converters that we need to source. These need to be processed and came in. This is a language that we are learning. There's a learning curve on it. We're learning it quickly, and our demand is really driving that we learn it quickly. We are really, really committed to a quality product, because when you're out there on a ranch or a long ways from anywhere, it needs to work. It needs to work reliably. So we're trying to make sure we've got the best product, get it manufactured. So us to really vet out our manufacturing process and make sure our sourcing is going to be there is probably our largest hurdle. I think if we can get through those things and get that streamlined, the rest of it truly falls in place. I think that the product will sell and sell itself in all accounts. We've got to learn how to get it manufactured, get it in here, get it put together and out to the users.
What are you planning on selling it for by price, and what is, an estimated margin on that?
Currently, our estimate, and all these are kind of still fluctuating depending on our piece part pricing, what we can source our pumps for and so forth. Currently, we're estimating selling them anywhere from $150 to $170. This is kind of retail pricing. And our current estimated inputs of that's about $85 to $90. And so we're trying to kind of just price it that way to give us some flexibility and build in our labor and our startup.
So the startup costs you had on the board and that equipment that is necessary, how many units you can produce a year with just that?
Those startup costs were based on 100 units as an initial run for the material that goes into those. And then when those products would sell, the actual injection molding components and so forth aren't the highest prices. So we'll be able to roll from those 100 in to get the next 500 off the units, because with anything, it's an economy of scale. So 100 costs us this much and 500 actually costs this much per unit and so forth. And so that's kind of why we've targeted the 100, just to get our initial production made and then begin taking orders.
Do you see all your future marketing in business direct to consumer, or utilizing wholesale and retail markets to facilitate sales?
No, I anticipate eventually our goal is to get it to some of the larger trade shows that will be targeting your Tractor Supplies, your Baumgars, some of those wholesale trade shows, and get these on the shelves. Our local farm stores will be a great outlet to start that retail portion of it. Direct to consumer is gonna be huge initially, but ultimately, yeah, we much prefer to see it in your Baumgars, your Runnings, get it off the shelf.
With the amount of capital commitment required in 100 units, just from looking at a post that got 260 shares, most saying I need 2 or 20 of these things. Have you guys explored the avenue of, we've only got a small pool of money to give to all of one presented tonight. Kickstarter, Indiegogo, anything like that
I've actually been in contact with Generator, the Wyoming Fund, a business accelerator, and working with them. Looks like we'll be a really good fit for acceptance into that this spring. And then, from that, Bailey was kind of telling me that they've got venture capitalists already that once they assist you with the executive summary, then they'll make physical introductions to you and so forth. So we've kind of got the foundation laid for that.
All right.
One follow-up to Matt's. So you plan on 100 units. What happens if you sell 1,000 units in the first 3 months? and you're planning on 100.
And I guess we make 1,000 units.
So it's because sometimes, you know, the over success, do you have a contingency plan if it goes better than expected?
Once we have the tooling in place and the molds made, it is a simple snap in place according to our manufacturers that we're working with to put that tool back in place, and we tell them we need 4,000 of them, and they have the material on hand. They start running them and shipping them to us, and we put them together as fast as we can. Then at that point, I mean, you're scrambling trying to get temporary labor in to help with it, but at the same time keep the quality there. So there will be some hurdles, I like that word, not failures, that we will have to go through, and it's going to be a learning curve. But you know, we're destined to make this thing work and to figure it out. And if I got people waiting in line for 3,000 or 4,000 of them, I think that'll be a good thing. And I think we'll ramp up fairly quickly.
And in all honesty, I know we had to go through the screens pretty fast, but by 2024, our projection is to have 2,500 of them sold by next December. And that's all in my projections and estimates and that. And so the initial 100 was just to kind of make sure that we like how everything comes out of those molds and that we've got the resources. But then I've been speaking, because the pumps are a big part of this, right? And you can get pumps from anywhere, seriously, but we need a reliable source, and we found a pump that we really like. So I've been in contact with them, and I've been telling them by 2025, we're looking at sourcing 2,000 to 3,000 of these a month. Can you do that? And they have assured me that that is not out of line, that they will be able to source 2,000 to 3,000 pumps a month on a consistent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, can we give all 5 of our Energy Capital Startup Challenge finalists a hand? What a great job, tremendous preparation, and the time that you all put into it tonight really did show. Really appreciate your dedication, commitment, and let's hope that we can have 5 successful businesses out of this process. So now we have a couple of things. We're going to dismiss the judges in a minute. They're going to go do the deliberation. They're going to come back in a few minutes, and we're going to be able to announce 3 winners, okay? In the meantime, before you break for the reception, those that are in the live audience, you can check the back of your program or on the screen and enter your vote for the audience choice. On the live stream, we're going to leave this up for a few minutes. If you could go ahead and log your vote, we will also announce the audience choice winner at the reception. So thank you all very much. I know that this was a lot of presentation content, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Please, for the live audience, enjoy the reception. Judges, you are now dismissed. Finalists, if you could come up in front, we were going to get a quick picture. Thank you all very much.
Thanks everybody for participating. I haven't had much of the speaking role tonight, so they decided to give me the fun job of announcing the winners. So first off, the audience choice. Must have had a pretty decent online showing because we had 125 votes total for the audience choice, and it goes to Baldacci Guitars. From there, we have 3 winners tonight in no particular order. They'll gather and work on their presentations and their milestones and convene again in a couple months for final distribution of the winnings. But the 3 winners are such: Wind Turbine Blade Recyclers, Ag Innovations, and Baldacci Guitars. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody who worked really hard on start to finish on this. A special thanks to Dana for really getting it put together, Energy Capital, and everybody else who participated. We really appreciate it. Still enjoy another beer or some food and celebrate. Thank you.